up, you guys? This is Rob from the AI Plays, and today on Veteran Stories, we are taking a look at another set of amazing weapons that you probably forgot about. Now, in the previous video, we covered 3 primaries that were a little bit more obscure. They weren't necessarily the most popular, they weren't a part of the meta, and they weren't on the newer end of the spectrum. However, their performance really warranted a little bit of shine, and that's exactly the same thing that we're going to be doing today. However, this time around, we're going to be focusing on secondaries. Now, I will make a couple notes. The first note that I do want to point out here is I'm not necessarily focusing on weapons that can be boosted to insane godlike levels with ribbons. I feel like that's kind of its own series. You know, just let that be its thing because of the fact that, you know, not everybody is necessarily going to have access to those specific ribbons that will make a weapon amazing. And, you know, people might never get lucky on those rolls. So I'm kind of just gonna leave that as, you know, something to mention when it comes to the build, but not necessarily something that is going to be indicative of a weapon being on this list. The next thing that I want to point out, and it's gonna be a really weird thing for me to say, y'all got in your feelings about some of these weapons. When I mentioned the fact that there could be a secondaries list, some of y'all went absolutely crazy and said, this weapon, you need to talk about this weapon. And a part of me is like, if the comment section is busting out about certain weapons, that kind of means that they're a little bit on the popular end. And that's not necessarily what this is to be focusing on. I want to focus on things that, you know, people haven't talked about in a while. So a couple of the weapons that I'm going to be mentioning, I'm not actually going to be mentioning. The first one of which, as you can see right here, is the Staticore. This is the one that y'all really just got in about. Y'all are, oh my god, the Staticore, you guys, the Staticore is absolutely amazing. Talk about it. And trust me, believe you me, I feel the exact same way. I believe it was in my favorite weapons of 2017. And this thing is an absolute beast. As you can see, it's just tearing through enemies. And come on, listen to it. And it makes a Hadouken! Come on! Tell me that is not absolutely bomb. Now, I love the Staticore. I have a ton of love for the Staticore, and I think that more people should be using it. But I don't necessarily think that it's unpopular or obscure. I think that it's actually fairly popular, and I think it's definitely very, very fun to use. So if you guys haven't checked this out, check this out, and let me know if you guys want a refresher or a standalone video for this, because I really just want a whole video of me playing with this weapon, because it's a shit ton of fun. However, I don't think it's unpopular or obscure enough to be on this list. So it's not getting a formal mention, even though it is getting mentioned. So I mean, I don't know how that works. The next weapon I wanted to go ahead and mention is the Dual Toxicist. Now, when it came to the secondaries weapon buff, I feel like this one kind of flew under the radar. I don't know necessarily if it did or not, but one of the things that a lot of people have not been talking about is the fact that the headshot buff is now refreshable. So before, you know, we would just have to, like, you know, ride out that headshot buff and hope that that we would be able to refresh it. But as you can see right now in the buff corner of the screen, it is refreshable with you know, more and more headshots that kind of occur. So that's absolutely fantastic for it. It's definitely a powerhouse. It was famously very popular for the whole Mesa synergy with it. And the thing about it that I do love is one of the things that kind of happens with secondaries is secondaries can be very, very ammo hungry, but because of the fact that when you get your headshot buff on, it doesn't consume any ammo whatsoever. As you can see, we're still stuck at that 11, so during this period, it is very, very efficient when it comes to its ammo, and I have to say, it is definitely a great weapon, but I feel like it's popular enough to not necessarily be obscure, so it doesn't necessarily make the list, even though it kind of does make the list. However, let's go ahead and jump onto a weapon that is actually on the list and is very, very similar to the Dual Toxicist with its cool buff. So as you can see right here, we are taking a look at the Nell. Now, the Nell, for those of you guys who don't know, was the pistol that actually came out with Holo. And let me tell you, this one is an absolute beast. First and foremost, it's got a sick-ass UI. Look at that. I believe it was the first sniper pistol that we ever got. And as you can see, it is making some serious work. Now, the cool buff that it has, number one, it's called, the weapon itself is called the Nell, but the buff that it gets is called the Death Knell. Oh, I just love that so much. And what it actually does is it boosts up the critical damage of the weapon by 0.5 for every stack, up to 3 stacks. So you can actually see at the bottom, there are like 3 little arrows. And do you like the UI? You like how that thing like spins down? Like, look at that. Letting you know exactly, you know, how many stacks you've built up. But you get bonus critical damage off of that, and you also get, I believe it's 20% status per stack. So this thing is a status dealing machine, as well as dealing a lot of crit in addition. So number one, just look at the UI for it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Number two, it was the first sniper, the first pistol sniper of its kind. The only thing that I will say is the impact procs on this definitely knock around enemies, so sometimes it can kind of get in your way for getting all those headshots. But still, definitely a weapon worth checking out. Except, you see those impact procs? You see them? They're all gone. So you can either kill enemies or you can just knock them off of terrain and never have to deal with them again. Either way, it's lethal. But this was definitely one of, I believe, Pablo's brain children. So let's go ahead and take a look at the build that I have on it. I do have like one variation that I think I was running. So it's basically a crit build. And we've got some status on it. Status on its own on the regular is only 27.8%. But because of the fact that you can go ahead and stack up 3 stacks of the Death Knell buff, it'll actually bring you up to an additional 60. So that brings it to 87% status, which is pretty fucking hefty. So as you can see, we're kind of pushing it up there with a whole bunch of crit. And then I've got Augur Pact on there. Now, if you feel like it, I'll be honest, I haven't crunched the numbers, but listen, I was just playing around with it. Hydraulic crosshairs might be something else that you might want to try out on this weapon instead of Augur Pact. Play around, see how you feel. However, this is the setup that I'm definitely fond of when it comes to the Nell. I can still hear this bastard in the background talking. Listen, I'm trying to conduct a video. Where are you? So I can kill you. Can you hear him? Okay, I'm not crazy. Listen, just get those headshots in and boom, he's gone. All right, now I feel better. Let's go ahead and move on to the next weapon that I feel is obscure enough to mention. I have a lot of love for this weapon. A lot. And I just don't feel like it got the shine that it deserved. And that is, of course, the Fucile. The Fucile? Listen, DE and your naming shit, you make me crazy. But this is definitely one of those. We don't get too much shine when it comes to throwing weapons. However, this one is absolutely killer. Now, this thing's got a very good mix of crit and status. And as you can see right there, it's got a shit ton of slash. So a little bit of viral on this baby, and you just let enemies bleed out. Not to mention, and I don't really use the secondary shot as much. I believe it does up the status a little bit more, but you can actually just throw 3 at a time. Let me reload. But let's see if we can. There you go. You can throw like a flurry. Actually, look at that. The multi-shot works on it too, which is kind of like sickening. But it will eat through your ammo a little bit more. So that's definitely an option. It throws out like a fan of knives, which, you know, I hate to bring it up because some people get emotional. In Destiny 2, there's a class that can throw out a fan of knives as well, and I'm like, ooh, it's just sexy. But as you can see, this definitely eats through armored enemies like nobody's business, and it gives some love to the fucking throwing weapons out there, because I don't feel like throwing weapons get as much love as they deserve, especially not to do I'm about to cough. The Fucile. It's because DE made these names, and it's hard for me to say them sometimes. Oh, choking on my words right there. But yeah, this is definitely one of the ones that you should check out. And in addition, it's beautiful. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So straight out of the gate, look at that status. 94.2% with a heaping dose of slash. Look at the puncture that's sitting there too. The puncture is not insanely high, but you notice there's no impact. There's no impact there at all. So it's gonna choose between those two and whatever elemental combo you put on there. So as you can see, its status is a little bit lower in single targets. However, its critical chance is a good chunk higher. When you toss it, when you do the semi-auto, which is the fan of knives, it gets a boost to its status chance, but it loses a lot of critical chance. So it's really up to you how you want to handle it. But let's go ahead and take a look at the build real quick. You guys can probably already tell where I'm going with this. It's more crit. I think this is like identical to the Nell build that I just put out too, with a little bit of Augur Pact in there. So you can definitely play around with that. I have a lot of fun with it. As you can see, the build already brings it up to 66% critical chance and the status to 94.2%. And for everybody out there who is talking about weapons that could get a good chunk of love with Riven disposition, this is going to be one of them because it's got one of the higher disposition rankings. So if you have not checked out the Fucile, definitely go ahead and jump in on that, even just to make just to get a pretty weapon out there. Now the last weapon, this one is really close to my heart. I love this weapon to death. It is an oldie but a goodie, and when it got buffed during the beam weapon upgrade, ooh, my soul just jumped. And trust me, you can really blend this into a weapon that can deal with a lot of different enemy types. I always take on Corrupted on here, but if you wanted to, you could also go ahead and use this very, very effectively against the Corpus. Oh, so as you can see right here, it's really highly accurate, literally just melts enemies, and it's just an overall fantastic. Look at the reload animation on this bitch. Look at it. All I'm gonna say is it's nice. It's very, very nice. I'm very, very happy with it. I'm glad that they buffed it. It's nice to see it get its spotlight shine, and it's nice to see it get a really, I don't remember if actually, you know what? Somebody correct me in the comment section. Did it always have that reload animation? Because that reload animation looks very different. Just look at how it chews through the enemies so fast. It's so good. It makes me so happy. Look at what? Okay. That brings me joy, because that's definitely not something that I had actually paid attention to be completely honest with you. But definitely a cool weapon that can just absolutely obliterate enemies. Definitely one that I'm having. It's one of those ones that brings you back to the days where this thing was crazy OP, I believe, when it first launched. And I won't say that it's crazy OP now, but it's definitely worth taking a look at. Alright, so be sure to go ahead and check this out. And don't forget, too, that it's got its own Syndicate proc as well, so get all up in that, and definitely be sure to check it out. Let's go ahead and take a look at the build. As you can see, we are pushing the status chance a bit with another Scorch in there. Oh my god, wait. I need to take it back. I need to roll it back, because I accidentally had a... Listen. We can't mess with this. I need to be honest, and I need to be true. So what we're gonna do, I didn't realize that I still had what do you call this? I didn't realize that I still had a, what is it called? A freaking, ribbon on there. So we're gonna go back. We're gonna do it one more time without the ribbon. Because, you know, Rob doesn't fuck around. We gotta keep it consistent all the way through. But as you can see, maybe I need to roll a better ribbon, because this thing's still chewing through enemies pretty damn quick, even without that ribbon. I mean, I think that ribbon might have saved us just a little bit of ammo, because it's still real good. It's still really good. So as you can see, even without a ribbon, this one is absolutely sexy. Let's take a look at the build real quick and, you know, hide my guilt and my shame. I'm sorry for that, you guys. Oh, because the ribbon disposition is so low. Okay, well, now we know why the ribbon was really bad. As you can see, we've got a mix of critical and status. And by the way, a lot of people out there are wondering, you know, what's better, critical or status? Really, if you're looking for a weapon that will see you through for a long period of time, you want a little combination of both. Critical gives you the damage punch that you need, and status whittles away enemy defenses so that you can get in there and fuck them up. And this is a great weapon for that. I'm super duper fond of it. It's a nice, like, old back in the days syndicate weapon. Be sure to check this out, as well as the weapons that I didn't mention, just so that you won't be mad at me. In fact, the Corinth was another one that I actually wanted to show you guys real quick, but I think that you guys already get that shit's OP anyway. I know it's a primary, but some people were talking about it in my last video when I brought up the Vacor Heck. But I feel like the Corinth is pretty popular anyway. So that about does it for this installment. As you guys know, I've got some interesting personal life things that are going to be going on very soon, so I might miss a day of this. However, there will be at least one more episode where we go ahead and jump in when it comes to some melee weapons. I've already got some in my brain ready to go. Regardless, that about does it for me for now. Leave your feelings down in the comments below. Do you feel like it was right for me to not necessarily, like, you know, when everybody's like, oh my god, this weapon is absolutely great, you should definitely cover it, like, that makes it kind of popular? Because there's a lot of popularity going on out there in the Warframe community. So toss your feelings down there in the comments below. Which one of these do you want to go and check out and maybe you forgot all about? And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch yo obscure ass weapons. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.